Result: college athletes around the country should be paid. Ed O'Bannon, a former player for the University of California, told CNBC's Closing Bell that the athletes who play in the NCAA tournament want to be there and are honored to play in that tournament. I just think that along with their possible degrees that they are getting, they could also be compensated for it. The organizations behind college sports need to pay their athletes because they don't have time for a job, don't get health insurance through their college to pay for their injuries, and are pushed to the max and don't get anything in return. College sports are very interesting to watch and more thrilling to play. But these skilled players must get paid $1,000 to participate that well, right? Wrong. These college athletes that we spend our free time watching do not get paid to compete in these sports they work so incredibly hard in. College athletes spend an average of 44.8 hours a week on their sport and don't have time for a regular job. This is why many believe that college athletes should be paid. In an article from the New York Times on Front, it states that for many college athletes, sports take more effort than a full-time job. Athletes need time to train, travel, and compete. It means players are already working hard by practicing and doing schoolwork on top of everything else. Athletes sometimes drop out so they can get paid and hopefully have a better life. These players bring in lots of revenue for their schools. Why not just let these dedicated players have some of their hard-earned money that the colleges take? Also, lots of players do not get much money, which means that some players will not be able to have a good meal. There are nights that I go to bed and I'm starving. Shape as Napier, a star point guard for the University of California, told reporters last spring before he was drafted by the Miami Heat. The players do not have enough money to actually eat dinner sometimes because they spent the entire day studying and practicing and do not have a way to earn money. Also, the players need some time to rest. Even if they somehow find a paying job, they will already be completely exhausted. Usually athletes burn off most of what they eat during practice and sometimes need to eat a little more than a normal person to stay fit for the game. This makes lots of college athletes extremely tired and hungry because the college that makes millions of dollars from all the fans do not give their players money. It makes no sense that the college cannot afford to post ads about the college sports all over, but do not care enough to give hungry players a big meal. During my research, I came upon an article about what it's like to not be paid in college football. It stated for his 1,363 rushing yards, and 19 touchdowns during the 1997 college football season, and this was invited to a award ceremony. A man was entitled to want to dress for such an occasion, but suit clothes required money that Ennis did not have. This player did extremely well in college games and wanted to celebrate, but since he was not paid, he could not afford to wear a suit to this occasion. This is more proof that even players that do well still cannot afford to buy suits or nice clothing to go out in places that maybe an NFL player would. This makes some of these players upset and embarrassed that they were not able to do these things. Also, when the players go out and find something to eat, people make fun of some players because they look like a homeless person or they cannot afford to get meal like everyone else. These hardworking and determined players deserve a good meal of food and clothing. They need to be paid for the hard work and effort. College athletes should be paid because they work harder than some full-time employees. College athletes risk their bodies and careers to play the game, but if they do get seriously injured, it could be the end just like that. That could change if college athletes would get funds to pay for their medical bills so that they can continue their career as a professional athlete. According to the U.S. News, athletic conferences receive millions of dollars in payouts from the NCAA when their teams advance deep into the tournament. Ditto for the coaches of the final squad standing. The NCAA as a whole makes $6 billion annually, but the players themselves do not see any of that money. Even as they risk their career-ending injuries every time they step out into the court for a ring. For example, Louisville's Kevin Ware suffered a gruesome broken leg. So even though they are risking their careers to play the game, they never get paid, which can cause them to lose their career due to an injury that they can't pay for. Also, according to Vice News, when athletes get injured, not only can their scholarship be revoked if they are no longer able to take the field or court, the only time NCAA's insurance comes in for a student athlete is when expenses reach more than $90,000. But there was nothing forcing schools to take care of athletes who injure themselves when they're ill. Also, from studies from Alabama, Auburn, and UAB about how much students have to pay a year because of sports-related injuries. From 2005 to 2006, the students had to pay a total of $1,708,537. From from 2006 to 2007, students had to pay a total of $2,017,490. Next, from 2007 to 2008, the students had to pay a total of $2,362,160. And then on, which means the students had to pay a total average of $2,549,872. The thrill of college sports is something that everyone can understand. Filling the stadium to the max and cheering on your favorite team is something that can never be forgotten. What is forgotten not understood is what goes on inside these athletic programs. The athletes are pushed to the max and don't get anything in return. This is why college athletes shouldn't pay. In an issue of the USA Today magazine, it states that the major conferences have an 8-year package worth $930 million with ABC to televise the Bowl Championship Series. At the conclusion of the regular football season, each team playing in a BCS game currently receives about $13 million, and under the terms of the new contract, will receive around $17 million in the final years of the agreement. This is significant because the reason these schools make all the money is because of their athletes. They make all this money and cannot even give it back to people that are making it for them. These universities are pretty much stealing money from kids. One statistic from the state newspaper says most recent NCAA survey determined basketball and football players spend more time in their sport than they do preparing for and attending classes combined and miss about 2 classes per week. It is also determined basketball and football players spent 3.7 hours a week on activities outside their sport. Regular students spend 6.2 hours in activities outside their main extracurricular activity, in which they spent 20.4 hours a week. The most logical conclusion we can draw from this is that college athletes should be paid because they do not get time outside their sport to do what normal college students do. They may feel like they are not even a college student because all of their time is consumed with their sport and not with their friends. In an article, it explains that these rules reek with injustice. Athletes can make money for others but not for themselves. Their coaches have agents, as many students engage in other extracurricular activities, but the athletes cannot. Athletes are forbidden to engage in advertising, but their coaches are permitted to endorse projects for a generous compensation. Corporate advertisements are displayed in the arenas where they play, but with no payoff to the athletes. The shoes and equipment worn by the athletes bear very visible corporate logos, for which the schools are compensated for handsomely. Therefore, the athletes are wearing advertising that supports their school and not themselves. Colleges get a huge payout for forcing their athletes to wear a certain brand. Now, are college sports as much of a thrill as you thought they were before? Behind these college programs are secrets that are hidden from the outside world. When fans are at a game, they're not thinking about what these college athletes endure. They don't have time for a job, don't get health insurance, fear for injuries, and are pressured intensely by fans and coaches. As stated by Ed O'Bannon, the athletes who play in the NCAA tournament want to be there and are honored to play. But along with their possible degrees, they should be compensated for it as well.
Athletes should get paid because athletes do not have time to work. But I disagree and say they shouldn't get paid because I have an assistant coach that plays volleyball for UNI, and she has time to study, coach, and have a job, and she's still able to play. This shows that she's still able to get money without getting paid to play. Therefore, I think that college athletes should not get paid because many can find a job. My opponent may also say that athletes should get paid because there is a chance of injury. But I have to disagree because everyone has a chance of injury every day. And they're also getting free insurance for their injuries. For example, when I was 6, I fell off the swing and broke my arm. This shows that one can get injured even without playing a competitive sport in college. Therefore, college athletes should not get paid. My opponent may say that they need to get more money because a scholarship is not enough. But I think the scholarship is enough for them to go. So I have to disagree and say, no, they shouldn't get paid because they are already getting $27,000 for their scholarship. The college is paying for their tuition, rooms, and meals, and all the equipment athletes need, rather than actual students who didn't receive a scholarship. Therefore, college athletes do not need to be paid for playing.
Whether college athletes should or shouldn't be paid, 69% of people in a public space agree that they should not be paid, and 61% of sports fans also agree. When looking at the whole picture, both the public and sports fans agree that college athletes should not be paid due to reasons like college athletes already receive scholarships, playing a sport is not a job, and if you pay one athlete, you have to pay all. One reason athletes shouldn't be paid is that they already receive a scholarship, so they shouldn't need to be paid. One example from Pay to Play states college football players and other student athletes will be eligible to receive several $1,000s in expense money above the value of the free tuition, room, and board these athletes receive in their athletic scholarships. According to the NCAA website, athletes are getting a college education worth anywhere from $75,000 to $200,000 for free. Plus, their connections with the university and the recognition they will receive for playing this sport will aid them in the business world for the rest of their lives. This is significant because it shows how much money they are willing to spend just for one student athlete and how far that student can go just for playing a sport. This also shows how even if they do not get paid, they are still able to go on to the professional level. Based on all this evidence, one can conclude that playing a sport, paying college athletes, is the wrong option to do since they are saving money from their scholarships. Not only do athletes receive a scholarship, but playing a sport in college is not a job. According to Renee Schoof, a writer, amateur status is defined as being college eligible, but is compromised when they use their athletic skill for pay. This is significant because since college athletes are amateur players, if these athletes get paid, it will be crossing the line of being an amateur player and being a professional athlete. If college players get paid when they are amateur players, why don't high school players get paid? Aren't they amateur players? Renee also states that the introduction of pay may lead some, not all, but some, to take full advantage of the fact that they get paid. Based on what has been stated, college athletes should not get paid because it is not a job. Lastly, college athletes should not be paid because if you pay one player, you are legally bound to pay all other athletes. According to ESPN, it's unfair and wrong to pay football and men's basketball players more because these athletes participate in a sport that generates millions of dollars in revenue, but not pay the thousands upon thousands of other student athletes competing for their sports in other categories. Additionally, what sum of money is appropriate for these players? Is it right for a star football player to receive a sizable salary because football makes buckets of money while a women's lacrosse player with a 3.9 GPA gets minimum wage? Any university that tries to restrict spendings to athletes in major sports will get sued by the parents of that female lacrosse player who works just as hard as the football player and logs in just as many hours as the basketball player. No school would want to be sued by one of their own students. According to Charles Barkley, a retired NBA basketball player, these basketball players for participation in paying these basketball players for participation in an event that produces a windfall without compensating the fencers and swimmers would be a form of discrimination. The fact that a former NBA player thinks that his own sport shouldn't be paid more than another sport illustrates that if you pay one athlete, you have to pay all because many people think that this is discrimination. From my evidence, I think it's clear that college athletes should not be paid because it is too much money for the colleges to pay all athletes. For these reasons, college athletes should not be paid because many receive scholarships. It's not a job, and universities have to pay all if you're going to pay any athlete. That is why 61% of sports fans agree that college athletes should not be paid.
They say athletic scholarships are their compensation and a fair one at that. But I disagree because according to Sports Illustrated, scholarships don't count as their payment, and they do not pay for their health care when they get a sports-related injury. And it doesn't give them, and scholarships do not pay for their equipment. Therefore, that is why athletic scholarships don't count as their payment. Also, my opponents may say that playing a sport is not a job, but I disagree because it takes a full-time job of 44.3 hours to put in the hard practice and playing games in order to play. Therefore, that is why playing a sport is not a job. And what my opponents have not said, but they may say, is that they may say that college athletes shouldn't be paid because college students are notorious for having spending problems. But I disagree because in order for college athletes to be able to play, they have to have a certain grade in each class, otherwise they can't play. Which means they have to be responsible to get their work done. Therefore, college students are responsible enough to handle the money when they get paid.